and the sea was above their heads. Oisín felt diffused, like he had left the material world and was entering another dimension where time and space knew no laws, and pain was but a memory. They saw a beautiful princess on horseback being followed by a prince riding atop of a silver dolphin. Oisín was amazed. Were they the people that lived on Tir an Og? Niamh laughed. They would not even be worthy of comment in my land. Where you are going, the beauty is unparalleled. Ahead of them, Oisín saw a shining marble palace. He thought it was the most beautiful place he had ever seen. Was this Niamh's home, he wondered? She laughed. Far from it. This is a sad place. A giant named Fomor lives here, and in his castle he keeps a queen as his prisoner. He cannot marry her until he beats a champion in one-to-one combat. No one will challenge him, for he is fearsome, but he will not release her. Oisín was moved by the woman's plight, and being a fearless warrior, he resolved to fight Fomor on her behalf. At the castle door, a beautiful woman bid them come in and brought them a great feast. That woman was the queen, and over dinner she told them of her plight, her desperate desire to escape, and the hopelessness of her situation. Oisín put his arm around her. You shall cry no more. I will challenge this ogre for you this very night. Just then, the door of the room burst open, and a giant, laden down with deerskins, entered. He guessed immediately what was going on, and challenged Oisín to come outside and fight him. Over 3 days and nights they fought, until Oisín succeeded in chopping the giant's head off with a great sweep of his sword. The women were overjoyed, and as Oisín lay back exhausted, they tended to his wounds, and gradually his strength returned. Oisín and Niamh bid farewell to the queen, mounted their white stallion, and took off across the waves. They rode through a terrible storm before coming to a land bathed in brilliant sunshine. Right on the shore was an imposing castle that shone like it was made of ice. It was surrounded by beautiful gardens, set with streams and fountains. A party of handsome warriors came out to greet Oisín and Niamh. Oisín was so excited that he could hardly contain himself. This is the most beautiful place I have ever seen. Surely this must be Tir an Og, Niamh. It is, said Niamh. Now you can see that what I told you was true. This land is all I promised you, and more. There was the sound of beautiful music everywhere, and the people were the most beautiful that Oisín had ever seen. The sky was a more vivid blue than Oisín had ever thought possible, and the sun shone with a gentle warmth. Every dwelling was decorated with jewels and precious stones, and their roofs were tiled with gold. They entered the castle and met Niamh's father, the king. He welcomed Oisín to Tir an Og and told him that he would be very happy there. Oisín and Niamh retired to her chamber, and they enjoyed the most ecstatic union that Oisín had ever known. As Oisín grew used to his new life, he came to realize that he was happy and contented in this place. He hunted, swam, and composed poetry as the mood took him. He feasted every night on rich food and full-bodied red wine. Over time, how long, Oisín couldn't even guess. They had 2 sons and a daughter. Their love was good and true, and Niamh was a true and loving wife to Oisin. Then one morning, as Oisin woke to yet another perfect sun-filled day, promising more pleasure and contentment, something happened. Oisin had a vision of his life, stretching out endlessly before him, unchanging and without challenge. He gazed at his reflection in a pool and saw that he had not changed in the slightest since the time that he had arrived in Tirnanog. He found himself wondering what it would be like to grow old, which made him think of his father and the Fianna that he had left behind. He yearned to see them again, to tell them of his adventures in this wondrous land, and to bask in the glow of their admiration for the life he had made for himself. Just one trip would gain him his father's blessing and fulfill his promise to return. Some time passed in this way, and then, one perfect night, as the sun set in the shades of orange and yellow over the deep azure sea, Niamh asked Oisin if everything was right with him. "Why do you ask?" said Oisin, surprised. Nobody ever asked questions like that in Tirnanog. Niamh took his hands in hers. "People are talking about you. Unhappiness is unknown here in Tirnanog, and yet some have remarked on a sadness, a wistfulness about your countenance of late. It is said that maybe you are pining for your old life." Oisin knew that he had to speak the truth. He gazed into Niamh's beautiful, trusting eyes. "I love you, Niamh, more now than ever. But I miss my father and the Fianna back in Ireland. I have to visit them. I promised." A shadow passed over Niamh's beautiful face, and her hands began to tremble. Oisin, I understand how you feel, but believe me, it's not possible to go back. When you stepped outside of that world, you did so forever. You have been offered eternal life and happiness. Is that not enough for you?" Oisin shook his head. "Perhaps it should be. It's what the poets dream of, but sometimes I feel eternal life to be a burden. I wonder if any of this means anything, if it has no end. But more than that, Niamh, I promised my father that I would return. I must go to him, just for a visit, and then I will return. You have my word." She looked frightened. This has never